So, what's the big dream for pretty much every entrepreneur out there? It's simple, right? Hire a virtual assistant, get your precious time back, and finally, scale the business. But what if that dream is actually a trap that's costing you more than you realize? In this explainer, we're going to break down the actual math and the mindset you need to turn that dream into a powerful, profitable reality.
Does this sound a little too familiar? You hired someone to get things off your plate, but now your calendar is just packed. It's full of check-ins, clarifications, and constant back-and-forth messages. This doesn't feel like freedom, does it? You thought you were buying leverage, but it kind of feels like you just bought yourself a second, more complicated job. Well, you're not alone, and the problem probably isn't who you hired, it's how you're managing.
Okay, so here's the absolute game changer. This is the crucial mindset shift. Most of us are stuck in the trap of managing a person, and that's a job that literally never ends. The real freedom, the real leverage, comes when you stop managing people and you start architecting brilliant systems for them to work within. So let's talk about this thing I call the management tax. This is the invisible cost you're paying every single week for messy, inefficient delegation. It's why you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, adding more complexity and overhead instead of actually getting more done. All right, let's do the cold, hard math here. Let's say you spend 5 hours a week managing a VA, who then does 10 hours of work for you. Your management tax is a brutal 50%. You haven't really scaled anything. You've just given yourself a very complicated part-time job. That's not leverage, my friend. That's a liability. And what's the real damage of paying this crazy high tax? It's ambiguity. And that ambiguity creates this vicious cycle of dependency. To really get our heads around this, we've got to look at the incredible work of Covey. Covey had this perfect term for it, Gofer delegation. It's exactly what it sounds like. You say, go for this, do that, and then report back to me. The VA does the task, but as soon as they hit a roadblock or finish, they just stop. They're stuck waiting for their next command from you. This keeps them completely reactive, and it keeps you, the leader, permanently trapped in the weeds. And look, this isn't just you feeling overwhelmed. The numbers don't lie. Research from 2024 shows that remote workers lose, on average, 4.2 hours every single week just waiting for clarification from their managers. Think about that. That's time your VA is idle, but more importantly, it means the cognitive load, the actual mental weight of the project, it never really leaves your shoulders. This brings us to a really tough but super important realization. It's so easy to blame your assistant when things get messy or slow down. But the hard truth is, your VA is just a mirror. If you see chaos and disorganization in their work, it's probably reflecting a lack of clear systems on your end. It's a tough pill to swallow, for sure, but owning that is the first step to actually fixing the problem. All right, so how do we actually fix this mess? We're going to pull out a secret weapon from the playbook of the legendary investor Charlie Munger. His advice for tackling really complex problems was simple but powerful. Invert, always invert. What Munger figured out was brilliant, really. He realized that before you can figure out how to succeed, you first have to get crystal clear on all the ways you could possibly fail. So, if we want to build a world-class delegation system, let's start by designing the perfect way to fail. You want to build the perfect system for failure? Easy. First, give super vague instructions with no clear definition of what done looks like. Second, create zero documentation, so every single question has to be answered live, by you. And third, rely entirely on constant, synchronous check-in meetings to make any progress. Sound a little familiar? Yeah, we're going to do the exact opposite of all that. The fix, the complete opposite of that chaos, is something called low-context instruction. All this means is that you build a system, your documents, your videos, your templates, that provides all the context, so you, the manager, don't have to. And it works. A 2023 case study showed that firms that did this saw a 22% increase in project completion rates. You front-load the intelligence into the system, and the execution becomes almost automatic. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's build the solution. We're going to build your execution engine using what Covey called the Stewardship framework. This is the blueprint for you to finally shift from being a micromanager to a true strategist. This whole thing is built on 5 key ideas. We've got the commander's intent, zero sync documentation, the 15-minute audit, tiered autonomy, and the feedback loop. Let's break down exactly what each of these means. First up, commander's intent. This is straight out of the military playbook. Instead of just telling a soldier how to take a hill, a good commander explains why taking the hill is critical to the mission. When your VA understands the why behind a task, they can think for themselves. They can solve problems and get around obstacles without needing your permission for every little thing. Number 2, zero sync documentation. I need you to stop thinking of training as a meeting. A meeting is an expense. It's gone the second it's over. Instead, use a tool like Loom or Scribe and record yourself doing a task one time. That 5-minute video is now a permanent asset for your company. You build it once, and it pays you back forever. All right, this one is huge, the 15-minute audit. You gotta ditch those daily check-ins. They're a time suck. Instead, once a week, you're going to spend just 15 minutes reviewing the output. If something's not right, here's the key. You don't correct the person. You update the documentation, you improve the system so that mistake can never happen again, no matter who's doing the task. Next up, tiered autonomy. This is all about getting yourself out of the way. You have to stop being the bottleneck for every little decision. So you give your VA a clear budget. It could be time or money. For example, you are pre-authorized to spend up to 30 minutes of your time or up to $50 to solve any problem you encounter before you need to escalate it to me. This is so empowering for them, and it saves you from 1,000 tiny interruptions.
And last but definitely not least, the feedback loop. Your VA is on the front lines, right? They are living in your systems day in and out. That makes them the world's leading expert on what's working and what's clunky. You need to form a way to ask them, where's the friction? What part of this process is annoying? Their insights are pure gold for making your whole engine run smoother.
So you do all this work up front. What's the big payoff? It's not just getting more stuff done, it's a total identity shift. You evolve from being a boss who's stuck in the weeds to being a strategist who gets to focus on the big picture, on growing the business.
And here it is, the number that makes it all worth it. By investing just 3 hours a week, 3 hours, into building and tweaking these systems, you can realistically get 15 hours of high-quality, focused execution back. That is a 5x return on your time. You're not just delegating tasks anymore. You are truly multiplying your impact.
So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. When you do this right, you're not just getting work done. You are literally buying back your most valuable and non-renewable asset, your time. You just got 12 hours back this week. The real question is, what are you going to build next?